a mess, as always. Nothing changes around here. Let's see, we're streaming, we're live, and we have no audience. Well, that's about right. Seems typical to me. Doesn't matter. I have to get on with the work. Audience or not, it has to be done. The show must go on, as it were, in order for me to collect my dollars. Okay, let's switch to the overhead. No point having my big mug on screen when that's not what people are here for. Let's see, overhead, there we go. This is what people are here for. Me flipping things off the flippin' bench. Flip and flip. Hey, MALS, MALS, whatever you want to be called. Yeah, it's weird. Almost nobody here. YouTube notifications broken. Well, you still managed to make it here, didn't you, Pernov? So it can't be too broken. Unless you've got a secret system that you're using that nobody else has. That's okay. Like I said, we're just gonna get this one rebuilt. This is job 430, which we did the other night. This is the SMC one. So if I have to endure putting together my own gear, then you guys can endure watching it. Stockholm's, David. What the? iPhone 6 or iPhone 6S earpiece mesh stuck on my glasses. Fantastic. Oh, right, you saw the thumbnail in the Discord, yeah. I haven't found a better way yet to quickly transfer the picture into a way that I can get it on YouTube. I could email it to myself, but that takes more time than just dumping it on Discord. Hey, Crazy J. I have not fixed up that 165 from the other night. I spent a bit more time on it today, and I still haven't fixed it. I even removed and reballed the camera controller, and I put on a new RAM. So yeah, reballed the controller, put on new RAM, same thing. So I don't know exactly what it is. It's not the first one I've had doing that. I think I've got 3 or 4 sitting in the donor pile that have just become machines that I can't fix. So I just swap them out with a working board rather than spending more time on it. But I am hoping this week I will receive my PC Byte gear, and that will let me analyze the signals a little easier with the on the board. So I might have a chance of actually finding out what's going on. What have I forgotten? I've already forgotten straight away that I have to put the rubber shroud on here. Yep, Sunday night. Hey, Rose Electronics. Hey, Andre. Yeah, I agree, Panov. It'd be nice just, yeah. I suppose if I had a MacBook or a iMac and it was actually running Mac OS, I could do the, what do you call it, what's that system they've got where you can just drop files to nearby machines? I could do that, but I don't have that on Linux. Is that Dave? Yes, Pedro. That's the one that Dave Jones did the video on, or someone sent it to him. So once I have that, then it's a lot easier then to set up the board ready to capture those signals rather than trying to do it freehand. I mean, sure, if you're a complete psycho, you could probably do it freehand, but that's not me. You're about to sleep under. Oh, well, don't blame me when you wake up cranky Sunday morning. Hey, Powell, and Poland. It's currently about, what is it, 11 o'clock here in Australia on the east coast, northeast coast. We do run a slightly different time. Searching for a T2 stencil. Can you not use a generic stencil and just drop off the balls that you don't need? Yeah, I do agree, Miles. Making money is better than sleep in most cases. It's like when I had to do the camera controller chip, I just used one of those generic stencils and let it drop the balls that I didn't need. It's like, yeah, one of these sort of things. And it worked fine. I had no troubles at all. It was actually easier to do the camera controller than it was to do the memory chip. The memory chip was a pain in the butt. SyncThing, okay. The thing is, would SyncThing work between an iPhone and a Linux machine? Or would that be demanding that I have an Android? So I'd rather stick with doing it like I do now, which is through Discord, than have to pick up an Android phone. Hey Greg, welcome. You been here the last couple, Greg, or have you just been occupied elsewhere? Yeah, with the RAM, I ended up using 0.45 balls, and fortunately the stencil I did have, which was from, come on Paul, think of his name. Damn it. iFixit Things, I think it is. Where is he? I've got it in here. It's a nice stencil, and it's even got the recess for these particular ones. Here, Fixing Things, that's it. Yeah, so I've got this stencil here from Fixing Things. And as you can see, the one for the camera, it has a recess built into it. And it's got a whole bunch of 0.45 balls coming off it right now. So that worked pretty well. I didn't... what happened? It was a bit of a mess still, relatively speaking, but I had to put down a little bit of flux on the chip, then drop the balls in there, and then sort of heat it up. But I had to heat it up very slowly, because even though this is actually quite a good piece of metal, it of course naturally will buckle regardless, you know, unless you slow to heat the whole thing up. But yeah, it's a nice stencil for the memory. Maybe it's meant to be actually be more of a paste stencil. So you put it down, you apply the paste, and you lift it back up, and then reflow. But anyway, I used 0.45s, and that worked. Hey, Stephen Barrage. Oh, good, thank you. And Basil. Oh, Jim. I was wondering whether you'd turn up. So yeah, as per usual, we have the slow start here with me reassembling stuff, just getting it ready for the next day. I find if I don't do it the night before, it typically won't get done during the day. There's too many things that happen during the day, and there's only me to do the stuff. As it was tonight, there was a emergency, one of the local shops. The Windows XP machine came up with a what do you call it, repair boot, something didn't quite go right the last time they shut it down. So I just told them to bring it straight in, and we switched it over immediately to a new Samsung 500 gig, changed the power supply, that sort of stuff. Thankfully, the existing drive they had in there did read across all correctly. So I don't exactly know why it did that, but I wasn't taking any chances being an older machine. Just straight away shifted up to a new solid state drive. Yeah, I mean, sure it cost them like $400 all up with the power supply and the drive, but that's a small amount of money compared to what they would lose if they start out Monday and their systems are down. Oh yeah, a lot of businesses are on XP still. Even if they've got to be virtualized, it's very hard to get them to move off it. And I understand why. It's the downtime and the dramas. You're almost better off just starting a whole new business from scratch again. NT, which one? NT 3.51? Or NT4? It was always amusing when you had to teach people at the start that they had to hit Control-Alt-Delete to log in. I thought, you're trolling me. And it's like, no, it's legit. Amusingly. Hey Keith. Robert Cook, I don't know if they do. It's a bit of a... Yeah, I really don't know for sure. If they don't, it is a bit of a drama, but when you've got a system that's only chewing up maybe, I think they were using about 120 gigs, and you put it on a 500 gig drive, you replace it every 3 years, you should be okay. Sometimes you have to do things in a less than ideally optimal way, or best kind of way, simply in order to keep things running. And like I said, yeah, every 3 years is a pretty small inconvenience. Okay, that's good. I just wanted to be sure that I booted properly before I stuck the solid state drive in. Hey Travis. I have done a couple of clients and I've virtualized their XP machines, but it still ends up being a little bit of a drama, you know, trying to get them to, you know, launch the virtual system and not having the hiccups and explaining why they can't do some things and that they normally were used to. Some cases it's not a problem, others you're just better off trying to keep that XP machine running until, I don't know, you kind of hope the person either goes out of business or someone else buys them out and they just do a complete overhaul. Hey Mark, Dennis Adams. Which MacBook would say A1534 would be the winner on that one for now. Yeah, it's a bit hard to say otherwise. I think the touch bar ones are a bit of a pain because they've got just so many extra things that can go wrong. Hey Carlos. I mean, 1534 is basically, it's just a bin book right now. There's nothing you can do with them. You get the data off and throw it in the trash. The A1466s are great if they're 2013 onwards. 2012 and earlier, perhaps not so good. and they're getting a bit long in the tooth anyway. But yeah, anything 2013 onward for the 1466 is a very dependable machine. Except if it's running a motherboard like I've got from last night, where it pops up for a second, shuts down, pops up for a second, shuts down, and makes me waste many hours of my life. Steve K. Just making sure this thing boots. Come on, come on, come on, come on, boot, 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 boot. Come on, come on, come on, come on, boot, boot, boot. Hurry up and boot. Alright, that's good. Got a 27%, charging at 3 amp, that's good. Happy with that. I'm just going to put that off to the side, let it do its thing. And then we'll get the next machine that we need to reassemble. And we'll also take the sticker off this one, container, so we can reuse it, since Pedro stole all the remaining ones out of Element 14 for the next couple of weeks. Jerk. Okay, where are you? There you are. Yeah, Steve, I tried today a little bit more, didn't have any luck either, nothing's changed. I redid the camera controller, I put on the RAM, or the flash or whatever, but no luck. This one, that's right. Kind of wonder whether that cable should be swapped or whether it's okay. Yeah, this is the one that we had. Backlight connector was dodgy for the keyboard and a couple of other little minor things. We'll just put it back together, see what happens. At least I can replace that trackpad flex even once it's fully assembled, and the battery if required. Well, the board's gone through a full ultrasonic, so that's good. Yes, they are nice containers, aren't they, Pedro? I like the fact that they don't, the divisions in them are actually molded divisions, and they're not just cheap, nasty inserts that slip and let screws go between the different sections. I hate it when that happens. Be replacing the BIOS chip after that, checking the parts bin. Oh right, yeah, Miles, that's pretty much what I was thinking. It is at the point where it's basically, yeah, other than maybe a curiosity board to try and solve it, because I do get a couple of them, and they all have a similar sort of pattern where they do that boot, shut down, and then nothing. So it'd be nice to actually find out what's causing it. But yeah, I'll get another board, redo the BIOS, get a clean ME region on it with a new serial number, or with the serial number of the board that I just changed. Yeah, Andre, I think I'm kind of hoping that Apple just gives up on that whole touch bar business. I mean, it's an interesting idea. I gotta admit, I am happy though that at the very least They gave us back the escape key as a key rather than being a part of the touch bar, because it really was not very conducive, particularly if you were a Vim programmer. If you program with Vim or write code with Vim or anything, then that escape button is probably the most used button you're ever going to have on the board. MLS, I'm just going to call you Mal, I think. I don't know. I got to come up with a quick, easy way of saying who you are. I do tend to agree with you. It is mostly just going to be a time sink. And I suppose for as long as I have spare boards on hand, then I shouldn't be too concerned. But it's just one of those puzzle things that you want to sort out and try and understand what the hell's going on. Particularly that whatever it is does or potentially seems to be a consistent issue. Like it's something that crops up. It's not just a common... it's not just a random type fault, it's a failure of some sort. A bit like, say, the dying caps on the 28... was it 2950s or 2850s and such? I'd say it's probably the fourth one I've had in the last 12 months, so yeah, the numbers are getting up there. Then again, I do have more than 4 donor boards of that type too. Hey Sabatino, welcome. MALS, yeah, I actually have seen that ASUS configuration. That is quite interesting. Basically, it's kind of like having a little mini tablet. But then again, it is more drama. My nose is just itching like heck tonight. Through all the lies. Oh, Basil, you got one of those big... Did you get the big roll one, or did you get the little iPhone 6-pack one, or whatever it was? We can thank Mark for sending that one over initially. The big roll one, cool. Yeah, that's good. Mine is in my carry, my, what do you call it, on-site bag. It's kind of easier as an on-site tool set than having all the individual ones just floating around in my tool bag. We're almost done here, almost. At least we hope so. Hi John Miller, welcome. Hope you're going well on your side of the planet. Hey, Wade's here. You should just rename yourself as Deadpool. Oil or something on my fingertips. Now, Mel's, yeah, did know that Bunnings had them, but I don't know if, did they have the little micro sets though? Alright, same thing with this. We're going to boot it up, see if it runs. We'll plug the battery in and make sure it actually charges too. Use the... Yep, plug it into the HDMI port. That's really going to work. See ya, Crazy Joe. Good luck. This one's had Big Sur on it as well. I don't know about you guys, but the iconography, the icons, the look feel of Big Sur, it feels like a regression back to, I don't know, maybe the 60s or even the 50s. It doesn't feel anywhere near modern at all. I mean, Bunnings has always had rare of their larger drivers. I've just not seen the smaller ones. Oh look, and there's Wade actually as Deadpool, yeah. With his avocado skin head. Okay, so we're on 3% battery. Temperature's running... Okay, that's curious. My airport proximity is running high. Have I got a bad daughter board on this? I just didn't think that should be running that high. There's a spider running across the room. And yep, sure enough, Wi-Fi is not running. Okay, so we do have problems. Shut down. Could have a bad daughter board here. Big Sur rounds the corners of all the icons, seems to be designed for VGR. I really do not like that sort of thing. I don't like it when these companies get to the point where things are running just fine, and that's terrifying to them. They're like, well, how are we going to compel people to upgrade? How are we going to get any of that stuff to happen? And so that's when they start doing stuff that has absolutely no value but starts to greatly detract. And we seem to be at that point when it comes to computers now. For the most part, computers are well and truly more than powerful enough to do most of the things that we do every day. And yeah, proof of that is you've got these MacBooks here and they're heading on 10 years old, and we just keep using them with no indications that they're not able to continue to service our needs. And like I said, it scares the living daylights out of companies like Apple. No, the Wi-Fi is connected, and that's why I'm thinking there's a problem with the daughter board. Because the airport sensor was also, the airport temperature sensor was also off. So something's going on with the daughter board. In theory. And, oh, I hate this. Ugh. You can't get the daughter board out without either taking the heatsink off or the whole board out. I guess we're just going to go the heatsink because there's only 4 screws for that. But it means I do have to redo my thermal paste. Admittedly, I probably should have taken the module off before I took the whole board off. No, well, mistakes could be made. That looks pretty nasty. You're at T8. Yeah, the daughter board. Indeed. A million and one screws to get these things off. At least if you want to get them off without doing too much damage. Right, so it's either the Wi-Fi module or the daughter board. I'm not sure which one I'd prefer, to be honest. Fatherboard would be just down the pub getting drunk. There's no fatherboard. There's only the motherboard. Because the fatherboard was kicked out before the design process was finished. Yeah, that looks clean, so it means I might have just yanked the entire daughter board out for no good reason. And these always feel so yucky. I admit, that looks reasonably normal too. Okay, let's see if we can lift this up without causing too much distortion of it. Alright, this is going to be fun. Like I said, no clear indication of what's going to be at fault here. So no Wi-Fi and no sensor. So it really does seem like it's more inclined to be a daughter board issue. I have had these caps short out in the past quite often. Everyone on Cat 6, now wouldn't that be something? Back to the good old days. At least you don't have to do vampire tap anymore. That was never fun. Fat old coax. Thick Ethernet. Connectors look fine. Connector looks fine. This is interesting. I mean, it all looks very entirely pristine. Okay, I mean that's not, but yeah, that's. And even under this shield, it's not really anything to do with Wi-Fi under the shield. Where'd the flex go? Oh, there it is. Just seeing if anyone's bent or cracked or anything like that. Nope, I cannot, visually at least, fault any of that. Crud. Brilliant. Brilliant. Let's have a look at the main board. Right, well I'll try another daughter board and see if it picks up anything. What am I doing? Just shove it in, Paul. Shove it in. Crikey. You made this daughter board the queen of difficult. Finally. Just had to jiggle it just right. Still not even in properly, but it's going to do for now. Hey Justin, no, that one is that one's sitting on death row on the other side of the workshop here. That's all we need to do for that. We don't need to connect the cables for the Wi-Fi, it's not required. Plugging it into the HDMI again. Marvellous. Will wonders ever cease? Hey Arton, welcome. Kenny Wooden. Didn't see you slip in there. Let's see, we've got a person by the name of Saad Shah. Tech City, g'day. Quick question, what software are you using for your repair books? I use my own stuff. I wrote my own custom software for that sort of horrendous activity, and unfortunately it's not something I can give out because it kind of ties in with all of my other pre-existing database and business systems which have been written by hand over the last 20 years. So, yeah, it's not something that I can actually share with people. Okay, so here we go. Oh, it looks like it might be the daughter board. Yep, looks like it was the daughter board, so I guess we'll just swap that. It's interesting when we're talking about the Australian broadband network that myself out here in comparatively rural area of Australia, especially being up in North Queensland, that I managed to get a fairly decent 140 connection. I mean, that is fibre to the node, it's not fibre to the premises. But I will admit I'm actually pleasantly surprised that I did get 140, and I do manage to maintain that on a fairly consistent basis. Which means technically I could do 4K streaming. Except I do not have the computing hardware to do 4K streaming. Oh well, I've got one piece, thanks to Jim. I've got this camera here is 4K. Thank you very much, Jim. Alright, daughter board. Is there anything else I need to add to finish this daughter board? Could put that. It's okay. I did purchase, I think, about half a dozen daughter boards last year, 2015 daughter boards. It's precisely because of this sort of scenario that kept coming up. Yeah, I don't know how precise I have to be with that. I'm going to say not. The other thing I need to make sure is, are these ports clear? They look good. Yeah, Andre, I do tend to agree. I most certainly did win the node lottery. I was not expecting it, and then when the sync speeds came up and everything came up and I was rocking in at 140 of actual speed as opposed to basic, like my synchronization speed, the one that's the higher figure that you don't ever achieve, it's up in like the 110, 112/50 mark. So yeah, very lucky. And because there aren't a lot of people in this neighborhood, it means I get to dominate, for the most part, that node. Total domination. Are you ready for this? Dun, 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 dun. Sorry. Spirit fingers are attacking me. I don't know if anyone knows the reference to that. What I don't get is why this daughter board's been so difficult to slot in. It's like, I don't want to be part of this computer. I don't like this computer. I would still pay to have fibre to the house though. Yeah, it's something like $5,000 or whatever. I'd still pay it if I was given the opportunity. What probably helps is the fact that our internet goes through Townsville, and Townsville was one of the sort of fibre to the premises testbed areas in the suburb of Aikenvale. And so because of that infrastructure development, it probably meant that our infrastructure got carried along with that. Or at least, once we're out of Charters Towers and into Townsville. So yeah, I got lucky. I'll definitely admit that. I definitely got lucky. 5 to the node may be upgraded. What's going to be the next speed step then? Because I'm not sure how far they can push the VDSL beyond the current 140. I'm not saying they can't, I'm just saying I'm not sure how far they can. It's a bit like when they tried to push ADSL beyond or up to like 25 megabit per second. It worked for some people, but a lot of people it was just a bit of a train wreck. Sorry, I'm kind of fumbling around here, trying to work out what I'm trying to do. Oh, you mean they'll be upgrading from node to prime? Oh, okay, right. I thought you mean they'll be going to like, there was some new VDSL standard implementation and we're all going to get upgraded through that method. Because yeah, as far as I can tell, they're pretty much pushing the limit on what they can do with the copper under realistic scenarios. I'm impressed that they did get as far as they did with VDSL. Starlink, yeah, Starlink might work for people like my parents who are out in the sticks. Maybe about, they currently are on geostationary satellite. The what do they call it here in Australia? Ah, damn it. There's a name for the satellites that they've got up there for Australian broadband. And as soon as I hear it, I'm going to go, duh, yeah, of course. Sky Muster, that's it. I knew it was something to do with cattle. Thank you. Travis, I'm not really in the sticks here. It's still pretty much, I mean, if you look at the satellite imagery of Charters Towers, it looks fairly dry, but it's not what I would strictly call in the sticks. It's more like the last town before it becomes the sticks. Hey, Yosef, Tonto. Yeah, we're sort of the gateway to the sticks. Semi-rural, yeah. Yeah, we're 130 odd kilometres from Townsville, which is the coast. Geographically, we're about 99, 100 kilometres as the crow would fly. That is, direct. We are at an elevated position. I think we're about 1300 or 1500 foot ASL. I'm glad we tested that. That could have been unfortunate, sending it back with non-functional Wi-Fi. I'm like, oops, we're sorry. Really don't need accents like that. Port Douglas, yeah, I think they're about 2 days away from that, or a day and a half. But what we might get is the rain depression that forms afterwards. If it comes just like drifts south via inland, then it may come over us. And funnily enough, it tends to cause more, well, I shouldn't say this, but you tend to get a fair amount of damage from those rain depressions after the cyclone's crossed. So the poor buggers that get the cyclone, they get the beating of their buildings and things like that. And if they're really unlucky and they get a king tide when it crosses, that's particularly damaging. but then we typically get the copious amounts of rain thereafter. Floods everything out. Tell customers to use a USB dongle. What? What for? Oh, for the Wi-Fi. Eh. I had to tell someone today that they're better off just buying a USB keyboard, external USB keyboard for their laptop rather than replacing the laptop deck. This is for some Acer laptop. It's one of those ones where the keyboard is plastic welded into the deck, and so you can go onto eBay and you'll find replacement keyboards for it for, you know, $30-40. But yeah, you try to go and fit that thing, it's going to be quite a lot more labor work to get it to happen. And most of the time they never fit properly anyway, because you can't really restore those plastic rivets the same. That is where the MacBooks are really nice. Even though you have to do the same in terms of ripping the keyboard out, at least you can put, you know, screws into the metal chassis, the metal keyboard deck. Whereas with the PC laptops, nope, not going to happen. Hey Byron, Amber, how's things going down there? Okay, let's try this Wi-Fi again. Let's not try and put it in the HDMI too many more times. This is the other reason why I like to do these reassemblies at the night before or things like that, is because it gives you a chance to, pardon me, deal with the issues that do come up. Whereas if it's in the middle of the day and you've got a 2-hour cutoff left before you've got to ship things out, chances are you might just miss it and you ship the machine back and not working so well, and then you're going to have a bad reputation issue. Oops. Don't give a damn about... Yeah, anyway. Hey, Max. Yeah, Bob, that's pretty much how it is. Any of the brands that have got the fused keyboard, you just replace the whole deck. It's just not worth trying to refabricate those plastic rivets. It's really not worth it. Yes, if I do a fair bit of general IT work for the locals. Not too many electronic repairs for the locals though, in terms of PCs. Like tonight, we just did an emergency business system repair. Get them up and running for tomorrow. It's rather nice when you do have the emergency situations, because then the people appreciate the fact that they're going to be paying for the service. Like this was 7 o'clock Sunday night, and so, you know, when you hand the invoice, then they're grateful for the fact that they're going to be up and running in the morning. So they don't give you too much drama. Alright, all our Wi-Fi is good. And yeah, that's the other thing. You can make a decent margin and people respect that. Okay, the only thing that still gets me is the airport proximity is still 129. I don't know, that must be... I can't remember on the 1502s if that's actually normal or not. It's not erroring, so I'm guessing it must be okay. We'll run Valley... I'm not plugged in though, so it's going to be a bit dodgy. Dennis, this is because I'm running off a USB stick. I'm not booting off the internal drive. Tony, it was about 20 minutes to copy the SSD. It was a 120 gig. I took a clone image of it, then wrote it to a 500 gig Samsung, then expanded it out, then the usual sort of disk checks and things like that. And it went well. Yeah, I use DD Rescue, so you're pretty close to... Okay, this is running slower than it should. I think it's because of the battery. Yeah, let's see if we can plug that battery in without killing the machine. Okay, battery in. Detected. Yeah, all of a sudden frames per second goes up. Yeah, so for my drive cloning system, what I have is I just have a small mini ITX, I think it's a J1800 board, which is an old Celeron type or Atom type system. And in it I've got an 8 terabyte single drive, and then I've got a 3.5 inch loader bay, and I also then have a push loaded 2.5 inch to 3.5 inch adapter for the loader bay. So if I want to put a 2.5 inch laptop drive in it, I just put it into the case and then throw that into the loader. Yeah, and then I have a piece of hardware that I built that controls the power to the loader, and then I can turn on that drive, on or off as required, and that lets me do some other data recovery things if I need to. So yeah, load up the drive, use DD Rescue to clone it to the 8 terabyte, and then take it out, put the new drive in, and write back the image. Now some people will say that you can save time by just going directly from the old to the new as a direct copy. I prefer not to do that because mistakes sometimes happen, and you'll end up writing the new to the old, and all of a sudden you're in big trouble. The other thing is that by having that clone image on your 8 terabyte drive or whatever, if something further goes wrong in the next 30 days with the customer, you can always just straight away roll back. So it's a good cover your butt policy. But more than anything, avoiding that accidental case where you swap the old and the new drives. It doesn't happen that often, but it can happen, and when it does, you've got no recourse other than seeing how good your begging skills are and how fat your bank balance is. So that's good. So yeah, you save time, but chances you're really you're playing your risk game there. Oh, you have one of the old strawberry, the multicolour ones. When you look at those now, they seem to be quite a different sort of company that made that in many ways. I can't imagine the Apple we have now doing that. Hey Nick Vasey, welcome. I love how this camera doesn't get all upset and confused when we change the brightness of the disk by going from a mostly black interior to a silver exterior. And then hear the camera going, "Oh my god, what happened? I can't see, I'm blind, someone turned down the brightness." It's marvellous. Screw jumped off the driver and the driver slipped into the hole instead. Better than screeching across the backplate, that's for sure. I just realised what I promised this person I'd do for him too. Damn it. Oh well. Small mistake, or small oversight. Now, I don't know if anyone knows a better way of replacing these, because I've never been able to lift up this plastic on the back successfully with... try again. And getting it to stick back down, that's the problem. Why would YouTube hold that? That was weird. Yeah, maybe. It's that kind of metallized adhesive that never seems to stick back. It's almost like it's a one-time glue. I should have just punched the hole through. Yeah, they're all pretty messed up. I'm just going to knock them all out. Easier said than done, hey Paul? When you want them to come out, they're not going to do it. Hey, Covey Seawolf. Hello. Yeah, it's been a little while since I've seen you here. What have you been up to? Thank you, by the way. Always, contributions always appreciated. I get so many of these type of machines, 1466s, 1502s, where the feet need replacing, so I just bought a large bag of them. Probably should have bought 10 bags of that size. I'm using the alcohol and the, what do you call it, the earbud thingamajig to make sure that it has a good amount of adhesion. Let's see if we can just clip these things off instead. There we go. It's a safer method. Well, at least it's one type of Macbook repair that I can do without completely ruining things. Cubby Seawolf, caught up in the world of working as always. Oh yes, I can appreciate that. If it's not work, it's something else, isn't it? Okay, make sure we go for the last one correctly. Right, so with these sort of things, what I'd normally do is just punch it out from within like this. This one's stuck, of course, because it hasn't fully broken. There we go. Yeah, see, it's pretty much all you can do is just punch them out. Now, Victor Ella. Good to see you. Victor Ella is permitted to write Chinese in the channel because he's trying to make sure that I learn. Only because I wanted to learn and I've been very slack and have not opened up the website that teaches me Chinese and Mandarin. I've said Duolingo, that's it. Haha. At least I remember that. Duolingo. That's terrible that I've... That's all I've got. Once this house contract is sorted out, and I feel like I will actually have time to finally go back to learning my Chinese and Mandarin again. I will not be learning Cantonese at this point. At least I will know the Chinese though. Or maybe just over time the Cantonese might just come as part of the package. Beautiful. Okay, so we've got some good looking feet there now. This HSK now has new levels up to 9. Oof. I'm never going to catch up with anything. Alright, lid down. And after this, we'll actually be able to get to a board repair. I do have a 1466 that needs repair, so your patience will be rewarded. So long as it doesn't behave like the other 1466 that we have and does that blink on, blink dead. Troll time, is it? Yeah, it is. Quarter past midnight here. It's like they wake up and got to get their morning breakfast troll coffee. Or maybe the coffee dispenser won't give them coffee until they reach their minimum level of trolling. Or maybe it's just a way of ensuring the trolling is really good because they'll be waking up, they won't have coffee, they'll be grumpy, so of course they're going to be compliant to get their coffee, and cranky because they haven't got their coffee. Learning a new language is such a drag. I spent 14 years trying to learn Italian so I can talk to my grandparents. Eventually gave up shortly before... Oh, well, at least you tried. Yeah. I think you have to have a purpose. Like, with my MLS, MALS, Yeah, your purpose was almost there, except for the fact that it wasn't really something that you did every day, so to speak. You're trying to do it for. You're trying to be a nice person and do it for a gifting sort of purpose, but unless it's something you actually do every day, I think it's very hard to do. Okay, Victor, enjoy your trip back home. Was it 10:12 Shanghai? Oh, you're in Shanghai. Okay. Zacian. Sorry, you mean wave your hands around and yell a lot, and I think that's what you meant. Alright, so we're booting properly here. Just, oops, plug this in. It is hard to keep motivated, and like I probably was doing, I was learning every day, 15, 20 minutes a day, for about 3 months non-stop, and then things just got out of hand on the home front here, and one day being missed becomes two, becomes three, becomes you don't go back, and so it's very easy to fall out of it. But I do still want to learn more of Chinese and Mandarin because a lot of the information that is coming out for MacBooks and other electronics is in Chinese and Mandarin. So it would be advantageous for me also to be able to converse with suppliers in their native tongue. If anything, if for nothing else other than the fact simply show that I'm trying to come across to their bridge a bit more. And if you're on the paranoid side of life, then you could say that I'm just preparing for the ultimate transition to us all being part of the Great China Belt and Road state. Alright, so this is charging fine. I'm going to shut this down. And now we can get to the machine that we actually need to repair. Oh, crikey, what did you do that for? Miles, I think it was it was in the wind from about 25, 30 years ago, I think. But who knows? I mean, for any, at any given time, there's probably every possible prediction, or at least close to it, existing in amongst society. So there's going to be the people who say this, there's going to be people who say that, and regardless of what the future outcome is, chances are a group of those people are going to be correct. But it doesn't mean that they were actually right for the right reasons. So it can be problematic though, because if things do go the way they thought it would, it emboldens them to think that they know more than they really do. And then they start trying to dictate future decisions based on the fact that they apparently knew what was coming in the first place. And really, it was a bit like someone winning the lotto and then saying that they know what the next set of lotto numbers are going to be based on the fact that they got it right the last time. Okay, what do we got? Logic board need repair, not powering on. Okay, let's see how not powering on this is. What I'm gonna do is put our sticker on the box. Get the chipmunk inserted. Such a useful tool, that chipmunk. Okay, so we're not drawing any current. Nothing's coming up. Okay. And it's certainly not responding. So we may have something wrong with the ISL. We may have something wrong with the DC in, isolation circuit or something like that. Not sure. But it does seem to be a complete failure, other than about 13 milliamp. So 3V42 might be alive, but it's certainly not getting to the SMC one wire state. Oops. Well, 13 milliamp, 342 could still be alive. We'll find out when we open up. When it comes to customer descriptions of the fault, I do like them to be fairly terse. I get great concerns when they're exceptionally verbose, long-winded. Okay, we've got a 165 board. Looks like it's got a replacement battery in it. That's not original. Just seeing it. This does the head work? It's got a bit of a wash over it, but I don't think it's been worked on. I think it's just factory wash. Alright. Let's get our sticker on the hard drive. Let's disconnect the power. It's going to be a roach under the CPU. Okay. Yep, place your bets. That's it. Place your bets. Wouldn't that be something if we could play the game where we could place your bets and what the various odds are on the bet and have a payout at the end. Paid out with Dogecoin or something like that. Or Ripple these days. Descriptive is one thing, verbose is another. Particularly when people start they create their own inferences based on what their observations are, rather than just simply giving you the observations. In many cases, it's often easier just to ignore what they've written and examine it yourself. Particularly in these sort of scenarios where it's not even booting. That flex looks new too. So we've got a different battery. I'm thinking maybe ISL. Kind of curious if it powers up now with the battery gone off. Not a nix, and still 13 milliamp. I mean, you know, in IT, or most industries I suppose, you do tend to mock the customers a little bit when they don't give you any reasonable description. They just sort of it not work. But I think realistically, we're probably thankful for that more often than we realise. It could also be an explosively bad short somewhere, but I can't. Let's have a squiz over the board before we pull it out. Ibrahim, it's the chipmunk. It's a simple but very useful diagnostic USB stick that plugs in, and it shows you if you're getting power and data, and also shows if the 5 volts is stable or not. You could do the similar analog would simply be a data stick, a USB data stick with an LED on it, but having the voltage detection is very handy, as well as the data, of course. kind of half hoping to see a caploded cap here, but nope, not seeing anything. Board's coming out. Joseph, your MBM went down. Oh, fantastic. LMP must have heard you were saying nasty things about their internet. The MBN that is supposed to already be complete, and yet there's so many people who do not have it. Yes, the MBN does what the MBN wants. Right, is it a case of the MBN now that they're just saying, if you don't have the MBN, you were never meant to have the MBN? It's a fine way of dealing with saying that it's complete even when people don't have it. Okay, here we go. Could it possibly be a bad DCM board? Seems rather implausible, but we'll have a shot. We'll put a different DCM board on it and see what happens. Doesn't seem legit though. Kind of feel like it would have stolen our glory or our fun for the night if it does this. But we should be happy for that, or at least I should be from a business perspective. Greg, what you do to your thumb? Alright, well, the good bad news is that even with a DCM board replacement, it's still not working. Here we go. Fortunately, in most cases, with a complete and utter non-functional board, most times it's repairable. The ones that aren't repairable, well, the ones that tend not to be repairable are the ones that are almost alive. And it's like they've just become zombie boards. Now, I'm sure there's a few people already guessing what it's going to be. But, yeah. It's got to be something pretty damn early on in the power stage. So, 342 maybe. Or ISL. Or a very upset cap somewhere. I mean, often that would be one of these sort here. But they all look pretty healthy. The other ones can sometimes be these ones. But they also look pretty healthy. Yeah. Yeah, normally, like I said, you get a complete failure like this, you do somewhat expect to have a more dramatic physical fault on the board. Sticking to zombie fuse or a good one blank. Yeah, I guess it is. U7090. We got a bet for 7090, eh? Oh, I'm gonna actually check on that one. U7090. Oh right, that's the 3v42 regulator. What? No. Yes, it is. Why was I thinking U6990? Alright, let's power it up and see what our voltages are. Tony W, what's the difference between OBS layouts that have your multimeter output on the... Oh, it's just a case of I've just not lined them up, that's all. The difference is the level of laziness that I have, to the point where I haven't bothered to realign them after I shifted things around. That's all. Pure, utter laziness. I think I in fact put more effort into explaining that than what I have put into the OBS layouts. Okay, see where we are. 342. Oh, we're down. Okay. Now the question is, are we down because the regulator is dud, or are we down because it's being dragged down? Let's see. 8.198. Okay, so something's probably dragging us down. Can you move your head to the right? Nope, I can't. Yeah, you got to have 342 or at least 340 or something like that, but this is way too low. Okay, it's misbehaving at the moment because there's still energy in those capacitors from when I plugged it in, and so that energy is making the reading on the continuity mode misbehave. So the diode mode is for 342. I really gotta do something about this beeper because quite frankly I hear the beeper in my head even when it's not running. Okay, 3.1, that's not really dragged down, so maybe it is a dead. Let's see what have I got. 34, 37, 34, 37, 165. This is a working one as far as I know. Famous last words. And yeah, so diode mode is pretty much identical. Good to have reference boards. So you can't always assume that just because you're only getting, say, 2.7 out of what you'd expect as a 342 regulator, you can't assume straight away that the regulator is actually at fault. Because what could be happening is that there could be a load on that regulator, the output, that is demanding more than what the regulator can comply with. And so what happens is when you demand more than what the regulator can comply with, it tends to drop the voltage. And it's also a little unusual for the regulators to just, not just, drift off like that. Because typically, your voltage is set by these two resistors here, or is it those? Oh, well, anyway, one of this pair of resistors here. So it would mean either the resistor has to drift off, or there has to be something really wrong internally in the regulator. This is not a guaranteed measure, but get 1/8. So yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna have to rotate them off if I want to measure them. In some scenarios you can measure resistance reliably in circuit. In most scenarios you have to rotate the resistors off the pad so that you're not measuring the rest of the circuit. The other possibility is that the decoupling, the storage cap could be dud, or the inductor could be dud. Tends to be more often than not one of those rather than the actual regulator. I'll do. Check out the diode 75. It looks pretty normal here. Might just be a visual thing. It looks pretty normal. I am going to measure those resistors though. Yeah, you're probably thinking about that one there, I'm guessing. Ten ohms, that's pretty much bang on what it should be. And fine, that's once again pretty good. This resistor here is probably the one that people are looking at. Okay, and what is that? That's 7012. Okay, we'll have a look at that. Because the purpose of that is actually more for signaling for the MagSafe detection than it is for generation or anything like that. So if that is bad, then yeah, that could mean that the MagSafe won't properly talk. Basically, it sets the impedance for the input line. Okay, so we want 68. And it's smack on 68. Right in where it should be, so that's fine. Let's measure these other two. .348, 349, and it's supposed to be 348, so that's dead on correct. And this one's supposed to be 200, and it's 199.8, so that's fine. So yeah, I mean, it could well be the regulator after all this. But I do like to check these things, because otherwise what can happen is you go along, you throw a whole new regulator on there, and the fault still remains, and you've sort of tossed away a part that you probably, yeah, you've got access to more of the resistors and caps than you have these regulators, but they are still pretty common. Okay. Now, when you make a suggestion, I'm not actually ignoring you if I don't take it up straight away. I'm rather just going through my sequence of my procedure of how I go about things to get to often that destination. It's a bit like with the data backup scenario. Some people just go straight from copying from drive A to drive B, no care in the world, and yeah, they've never had any problems doing that. That's their way of doing it. Whereas with me, I come along and I say, no, I'm going to first copy the existing drive to a clone image, and then from the clone image I'm going to burn that to the new drive. And people are like, you're wasting half your day doing that. And so, well, if you're sitting there watching that process happen and not doing anything else in your workshop that day, then you got other problems. It's the sort of thing you just set up to go about itself and then come back later when it's finished. The point is, people do things in different sequences. Doesn't mean anyone's wrong. It's just a case of we each tend to make choices based on our prior experiences. What I'm going to do is also check, see what the voltages are like. You know, for all we know, we've got a bus. What is it? Was it Q7010 could be blown up for all we know. We've got power back. That's bad news. That is bad news. Question is, will it blinks? Damn it. Now people are probably going, why the hell is that bad news? It's working. It's bad news because we don't know we don't know which part we messed with to make it to work. So what you often do in this sort of scenario is you just do a complete wipe. You take out all those parts and you rebuild it. Because even if it works for 24 hours, it may not work for... There we go. Oh no, it's come up. It took a little longer that time. It might be as it's getting cold, it misbehaves. Let's see what our voltages are. Voltage. Plenty of voltage there now. 8.6, 17.4, so that's about right. I don't know if it's an illusion, but I feel like that, you can't see it. I feel like that orange is dimming out. Maybe it was a dry joint, maybe, yeah. Okay, I'm going to let it get cold and see how it behaves. This is a 165, so it'll be anything between 2014, I think, late 2014 onwards. Yeah, just going to give it a chance to cool down, see if it misbehaves. Like I said, in these scenarios, it's often best to just wipe out that whole circuit, rebuild it from another set of parts, rather than trying to think that you've solved it when maybe the problem still lurks. Or it could have just been a damn little dry joint. The mistake I made was to do 3 things at once. Like, we moved that 68k and then we removed the 2 divider resistors, or the feedback resistors, when we should have only done 1 process at a time. And so now we don't know what actually caused it. Alright, let's hit it with some freezer spray. With the lead free that they're using in this particular process on the apples, it generally isn't too much of a problem. I'm not sure which alloy they're using. If I ever had to be forced to use lead free, I'll probably start using SIC 305. Seems to be a nice sort of alternative to lead solder. Freeze spray is pretty much useless in this area of the world, but it will at least cool down the board a bit. Now we've got the Sohang from Vietnam. Welcome. Yeah, it's still going. I'm starting to think it might have been dry. That is definitely brighter than it was before. Definitely brighter than it was before. I'm kind of curious to see if it dims out. Like I said, this is why you often do a rebuild of that whole 342 circuit. You pretty much then eliminate the chance that it's something else. Or something you haven't handled. Apple, profit above all. Well, yeah, I mean, the factor is, though, they still need at least a good number of their machines to stay out there long enough in order to convince the buyer that buying another Apple is a good idea. That cable, the tension on the cable's yanking it down. Yeah. Damn it. Well, given that the 3 things that I replaced with the resistors, or the move with the resistors, I will replace all those resistors as a precaution. What was the board you removed prior to soldering? That was the Wi-Fi board, and I'm pretty sure Wi-Fi board should not really do any of that sort of drama. But you're talking about this one here. But hey, it's a good point to double check that. You may be right, but no, it's working. Don't put those on. Alrighty, let's find a board with those resistors. Let's do a transfer. So it's not so bad if my customers were locals, but this is not a local customer job. This is someone remote. So I don't want to have to make them pay for freight for a dodgy job. I'm more inclined to think it was one of these 2 misbehaving. Because we were only getting 3.7 or whatever it was out. Whereas if it was the 68, in fact we can prove that. What we can do is we'll put these dividers back and then we can say knock the 68 off and see how it behaves. Because even when the MagSafe is not, say, properly negotiated, there should still be enough power there for the 342 to come up. Oh, brilliant. I've already nicked one of those. Damn it. Nelson, no, last night's board is sulking somewhere. Alright, so this is a 3437, but it's the same for this section. Yeah, Nelson, I don't know if I'm going to be able to fix that other board. It's not the first time I've dealt with that type of fault, and I have yet to date fix one. I usually write them off as PCH or CPU weirdness. I will say that seeing the dud end of that 68k, something's landing in my hair. Impedance setting for the MagSafe line. That was a good spot, and we may find out if it was that yet. Okay, so it was this resistor up here. So what we're going to do is we're going to rotate this off. So we're deliberately faulting the board. And see how it behaves. And if it gives us the same 2.7 or whatever, then, you know, we kind of solve the problem. Alright, here we go. Yeah, so it wasn't that resistor, because even without the resistor it's still running, which is understandable. This probably wouldn't work on a genuine MagSafe, but because this is a DC power supply adapter cable, it kind of ignores that 68k impedance thing. So it looks like it was actually a fault with the divider. And funnily enough, it's not the first time I've encountered that. I've a scenario where, for whatever reason, one of those... What the heck was in my hair then? Yeah, it was just a beetle. Thought it was a redback spider for a second. I've had one of those resistors go out of whack, and then as soon as I move it and measure it, it comes back into where it should be. It's driven me mad. I actually threw out an entire book of sample resistors because I was worried that it might have been that as well. But, and it probably didn't help. Most of those sample book resistors are complete trash. They're like the worst of the worst of the worst parts that you can find slapped together, and maybe they're the right resistances. That should be interesting. I should plug this into a genuine just to see if it actually does behave that way that I predict. Let's see, genuine MagSafe 2, we got one here? Yeah, we've got a MagSafe 2 genuine. Okay, so you won't see the power supply jump up because this is, like I said, it's genuine MagSafe. Yeah, see, wait, is the power on? Yep, power's on. Okay, so with the 68 disconnected, we're not getting anything. Let's put that 68k back down and see if it works. That's a good bit of learning here. Yeah. Let's see. Miles, have you experienced any laptops, regardless of operating system, waking themselves up from sleep lately? Nope. Maybe you're just in an area where there's a lot of magnetic fields. I have experienced stacked MacBooks not waking up properly, but that's because they were picking up the magnets in the screens from the MacBooks below them. That was a fun one. Alright, so our 68's back. Let's see if genuine MagSafe 2 will work in it. And there you go. Now it works. So it's important how one little resistor can make such a difference. What's this? Where the voltage divider 95, 96 bad measuring before changing the part. I was only able to measure them in circuit. And of course you can't measure it properly because it is in circuit. So then I had to rotate them off the pad in order to be able to measure them individually. And when I did measure them individually, they were fine. So it could either be a solder join problem on the pads, or it could be bad resistors, like a bad end cap or something like that. I just don't know. All I know is it's not the first time I've encountered this, and each time the solution is the same. You replace the resistors and it reliably works. So is that? This is somewhat unrelated, but so that cap looks a little bit, I don't know if it's a reflection or a focused light or something like that. Oh, I know what it is. It's a itty bitty little piece of hair. Yep, it was just a piece of hair. Made it look like there was a crack in the bottom of the cap there. Okay, but this is interesting. See how that's popped up there? Oh wait, that was solder. Ah. I thought it was the resistor black coating that had gone away, which often happens when it's burned. Okay. Anyway, we'll go to the schematic. So the resistor that we're talking about with the MagSafe identification is this one here, 7012. Something there, the one that. And as you can see on the note here, it says input impedance of 68K meets the specification requirements or architecture requirements. Interesting term for the detection of B121, which I imagine is just the MagSafe standard. So yeah, it just simply sits on the DC inline and creates an effective impedance for the MagSafe to detect. Yeah. Anyway. So it's another one fixoed. At least I hope. I will have to do a fair bit of testing on that one though. I don't want to falling back and fouling. I do still wonder what is causing that sort of fault. I guess we'll put it through the ultrasonic, run it for half a day or a day, and see how it goes. people wondering, that's just my UV pen. So, turn off the light. Interesting, it doesn't really show up because there's too much light around the place. Anyway, stop fiddling around, Paul. Anyway, that's, what is the time? It's 1 o'clock in the morning. It's time for me to go to bed. And by go to bed, you all know that means I'm going to go eat something, go have a shower, go spend half an hour on Netflix or Disney Plus and try and find something to watch. And if I manage to do that quickly enough, I will get to watch it. Otherwise, it's just a case of give up, go to sleep. And tomorrow morning, I have the electrician coming in at a miserable time of 8:30 in the morning. And I'm thinking I'm going to have to bribe this chap to send... I need a quote done for safing of a bunch of wires. And I think I'm going to have to bribe him 50 or $100 to get that quote to me before lunchtime. Because I need it so that I can hand it over to the bank, so the bank can then hand it to their evaluations department, so that they can decide if they want to actually give me a loan for $180,000 for the house. Which I really hope they do, because they've already pre-approved me. They've got no problem with me and my ability to service the loan. They just have this issue with the value of the house, that's all. And I said to them, well, look, I'm happy to cover the cost of whatever remediatable work that you need done on the house in order to make it come up to the value that you feel like the house should be worth. So, you know, it cost me another $5,000 to get these things corrected to satisfy the bank, and that's fine by me because the work has to be done regardless. So I may as well get it done and get the loan. It would have been more ideal if they could just simply take it on faith that by buying the house I would then invest in the house, but I understand that banks do not work on faith, they work on risk. So I have to play their game since they're the ones that are giving me the money. It's not like they have to give me the money. It's not like I have a right to have a loan. It's a case of, you know, you got to play their game. I see, like in the US, nothing works out right. You know, normally it wouldn't be a problem. Normally I could pretty much trust these guys to give me a quote within 24 hours, you know, written quote. But because I am under the pump for the pressure, I'm going to have to kind of just nicely ask. And I don't mean it as a bribe to the person. It's more a case of, let me give you some extra money to compensate for the fact that I'm going to put you out of your normal schedule in order to be able to facilitate what I'm requesting, because it's my fault that I'm asking for it so quickly, as opposed to you going out of your way to compensate for my inability to plan in advance. So yeah, that's basically it. So just checking. Yep, I think we're pretty good. Alright, so we got the two machines back together. We found that dud daughter board, which was good. And we got this one fixed. The horrible board is somewhere else in the room. I may look at it again, but I think I'm going to wait until I get my PC Byte oscilloscope probe set up. And I think it'll be a good test for us to go over and, you know, use it in a real life situation, and as opposed to a mock-up situation, and see how good it is and see if it helps us diagnose this board. It may not, but it'll be a good chance for me to have a shot at it. So, alright, well, with that, I am out of here. And Jim, good luck with tomorrow. If there's anything, as usual, just message me, but I know you already know that. And maybe you'll see you tomorrow. Who knows? Hopefully I'll have some good news in the next couple of days too. Until then, you'll take care. I'll catch you later.